Coleman Ruiz is the perfect person to provide a warfighter's perspective to this discussion. He graduates from the Naval Academy in 1998, was a wrestling team captain while he was here, and selects Naval Special Warfare, or NSW, otherwise known as Navy SEALs. He goes on to serve multiple combat deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan, earning 4 Bronze Stars, 4 Presidential Unit Citations, and numerous other awards. He commanded at the platoon level, the troop level, the Joint Task Force level. He's led in some of the most complex environments of the last 30 years.
It is Monday. No one is shooting at you, and the fact that you're doing fantastic makes me happy.
Combat, business, sports, whatever.
Your business, your team, yourself, whatever.
Sitting right below the surface are some simple fundamentals, laws of physics, as I like to say. In most environments, if you reduce the complexity and understand the levers that move the needle, use the Pareto principle, 80% of those levers are going to be fundamentals, and 20% are going to sort of be entropy, like uncontrollable factors. To do a hand wave and say that any computer system built by Palantir or anybody else, at least as we sit here today, is going to give you this personal chatbot type assistant, real time, on the ground, the chatbot cannot get you through a firefight.
Coleman Ruiz's perspective is completely unique in this broader conversation about artificial intelligence. He's worked in the most complex environments with the highest stakes possible. And no one is certain of what artificial intelligence can and cannot do. There is such a great degree of uncertainty. And Coleman has an incredible amount of experience operating in these environments.
Welcome to Radio Stockdale. I'm your host, Michael Sears, at the Stockdale Center for Ethical Leadership.
And I'm joined by Dr. Jovana Davidovich, Associate Professor at the University of Iowa, and a Senior Research Fellow here at the Stockdale Center. You are the subject matter expert on our interactive series, Artificial Intelligence. Welcome.
Pleasure to be here again, Michael. AI itself is not going to help us. What's really going to help us is humans and machines working well together. Midshipmen deal with this all the time. They have to make, and they will have to make as junior naval officers, they're going to have to make difficult decisions in conditions of uncertainty. And so how do I make decisions, morally justified decisions in conditions of uncertainty?
How do you make morally justified decisions in conditions of uncertainty? Do it the same way that you make morally justified decisions in conditions of certainty. So then we want to re-ask the question. In the 20% of chaos and complexity and uncertainty, where perhaps some of those basic levers suddenly don't apply,
right?
Because, which we were in Bakuba in 2007.
Oh, man.
One of the first patrols I went on was down to the southern part of Bakuba. It used to be for soldiers in Bakuba City that this was literally one of the worst places in Iraq.
A unit is in a firefight, and a woman walks out the front door with an AK-47. And so the easy, potentially rules of engagement justified answer is, well, she has a weapon, she's a combatant. Well, you don't really know that because the area is incredibly dangerous. She might have that weapon because she's protecting her family. She's not wearing night vision. She doesn't even know what she's walking out the front door into, right? So she has no idea, right? And so we can sit back and say, oh, she's a combatant, you shoot her. Well, a morally justified decision, as you know certainly better than I do, Joe, is much more complicated than that. Those are not decisions that, just in my view, that any piece of technology is going to help you answer. And so when you get overseas and you get into a real world scenario, you're going to be consumed by the complexity and the uncertainty. And here's the cold, hard, unfortunate and fortunate truth. The 80%, that's not your job. Your job is to deal with the 20% in the uncertainty and to take the ramifications of that on your shoulders and to deal with it on behalf of your people and let them deal with the 80. You signed up for this, that 20% is your job, and that's just a painful reality.
What is less familiar to a lot of people today is when should I trust an output of a system that's built on artificial intelligence? And when should I question it? When is my human judgment necessary? When should I trust technology? This is not just when should I trust AI, it's really when should I trust technology?
Would you agree? I mean, is it about trust? Do you ever envision a point at which a human, especially in high stakes environments, can actually trust a machine, can outsource to a machine in such a way and trust that machine with one's life?
Yes, but in limited scenarios, Joe. Like, I think, I'm just gonna go back, like, can you trust the Aegis system to operate correctly? Can you trust the CWIS on a ship? Can you trust your GPS data? Can you trust your scope once it's doped in? Can you trust your radio signal? Yes, absolutely. And we trust it every single day. But those categories of trust with respect to the machine are completely and entirely bounded by the laws of physics.
Yeah.
Communication frequency, GPS signals. Other than jamming it, the enemy cannot manipulate your radio signal. Of course I trust my radio signal. What the enemy can manipulate and what you cannot predict or trust is what the enemy's gonna do on any given night. And so we have to just make sure in our lines of work, what the MIDs are gonna go do is that they understand where the boundary conditions or the laws of physics are still in place and where they're not.
The larger sort of overarching lessons really are about making morally justified decisions in conditions of uncertainty, and in that way also assuring that we minimize moral injury for our naval officers.
Part of the preparation here is to prepare a midshipman for the possibilities of moral injury. Is AI going to be helpful in that? Is AI going to be helpful in mitigating the effects of combat operational stress or post-traumatic stress in any way?
I doubt it. I doubt it. If a midshipman is listening to this, you are going to make mistakes. They're going to feel like moral mistakes. And they're actually not moral mistakes. They're complexity mistakes. Unless you are a complete sociopath, the mistakes that initially and for quite some time afterwards are going to feel like they were moral failures, perhaps. They're not. They're the fog of war failures, and they are failures sometimes. And that is the job that we all signed up for, Joe. And when you first leave here, you do not realize that's coming. There's gonna be a mistake, like in multiple ones. I made them, we made them, these mids are gonna make them, you're gonna learn from it, you're gonna be okay. But if you think that some code of some neural network is gonna like help you live with that and deal with that, I just don't buy it.
And so the other sort of really important lesson to take away from this is knowing when to trust human judgment, knowing when my judgment as an officer is needed and when I should rely on technology.
Every midshipman leaving here, going into this job, has an internal compass. You don't need other people to tell you the difference between right and wrong. You don't need your instructors at TBS or anywhere else to give you a North Star. Unless you're a sociopath, generally speaking, because of who you are and your preparation thus far, you will be right most of the time because your moral compass, your physical compass, your emotional compass, your tactical preparation compass, your internal compass sending you in a decision-making direction is most of the time going to be correct. You are prepared.
Trust your gut.
To be your own person and be your own leader, and you need to do that. That's actually what's expected of you. Now, typically, to be fair, the manuals are written in blood. Follow them, but they're not right about everything.
So maybe one of the better features of an academy preparation might be intuition. The intuition 100%. You're provided.
That's right. You have built an intuition that you need to use and people want you to use, even though it's not really said in this way. Because make no mistake, like when you get in a real wartime scenario where you're not in that perfect training environment anymore, you're immediately going to go to your intuition, because in many circumstances, it's the only thing you have left.
So since we're talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, does a machine then get in the way of developing intuition? Does it somehow prevent us from developing and trusting our own intuition?
If we're addicted to it. I think very simply, Joe, like, use the examples we have. Believe everything you read on the internet, because the large language models that you're using are pulling data from the internet. So I'm not a Luddite, but I don't trust that stuff. Like, why would I? I mean, at the end of the day, we haven't had this stuff that long. So just because we are in this technology-rich environment in America, in the Western world, and it's easy to do the hand wave and, oh, this is gonna be awesome. Maybe. We'll see.
I'd like to thank you for joining us on Radio Stockdale. Tune in every week for new content about artificial intelligence and the connection between character, ethics, leadership, and law. Thanks for joining us.
Here's the cold, hard, unfortunate and fortunate truth. The 80%, that's not your job. Your job is to deal with the 20% in the uncertainty and to take the ramifications of that on your shoulders and to deal with it on behalf of your people and let them deal with the 80. You signed up for this, that 20% is your job, and that's just a painful reality.
Coleman is absolutely right on this point. The entire Naval Academy preparation is designed to get you ready for that moment, that fraction of time when potentially deployed in harm's way, which is a fraction of your overall professional career. But it's in those moments that you're going to kind of earn your money as a leader. And the entire Naval Academy preparation of 4 years is designed for that point, to initiate the type of critical thinking skills, the creativity required to adapt in those circumstances.
Because make no mistake, like when you get in a real wartime scenario where you're not in that perfect training environment anymore, you're immediately going to go to your intuition, because in many circumstances, it's the only thing you have left.
So Coleman's observation about intuition being the only thing you have left really tells us you have to look internally. It's the moral, mental, physical preparation that you engage in that prepares you for it. Those answers are within. You can't take a shortcut by going to an external source, artificial intelligence or otherwise, to somehow draw that information in the moment. That's built over time and calls for deep introspection.
Because the large language models that you're using are pulling data from the internet. So I'm not a Luddite, but I don't trust that stuff. Like, why would I? I mean, at the end of the day, we haven't had this stuff that long. So just because we are in this technology-rich environment in America, in the Western world, and it's easy to do the hand wave and, oh, this is gonna be awesome. Maybe.
It's interesting that we're in the point in time of the development of this technology that the pace is faster than ever. Since we started this film series, the changes have been on an almost weekly basis. And the truth of the matter is, the jury's still out. We don't know what it can and will do for us.